and welcome to today's episode of LinkedIn with Louise. And today I'm crossing the pond and bringing on a guest expert and one of my LinkedIn network called Angela Pitter, who is also working in digital marketing online. And I thought Angela would be a great guest to bring on to meet you all. So Angela, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talking with you, like you said, across the pond from Boston to Ireland.
Yes, and Boston is somewhere I would really like to go one day. That's for sure.
Yes, one day, post-pandemic, I'd be happy to be the tour guide.
Excellent, love it. All right, Angela, would you want to just briefly introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your business? That would be super.
So my business is Livewire Collaborative. I'm a digital marketing strategist and advisor. I work with small to mid-sized businesses to help them unleash the power of social media. Basically to help them to connect, collaborate, and convert their target communities with ever that social media that, I always like to tell them, make sure you're working online where your customers and your clients are.
Yes.
So don't just randomly pick Facebook because Facebook seems like the place to be. Really understand your target market, the target demographics, what's that buyer persona. So that's literally step number one in the process.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that that attracted me to your brand when I first came across you online was the business name, Livewire Collaborative. I think it's a brilliant name. I love it.
Thank you. So everybody always tends to ask me, are you the Livewire? And that is correct. I am the Livewire. I'm the one that's always trying to get the party started.
Excellent.
But I do love to partner. Now, when I'm working with a client, I always think of it as a partnership. And we're collaborating. We're trying to whatever the business goal is, the business objective. I really I'm in there, roll my sleeves up, and we're working together to get it done. And that's why I had to add the collaborative.
I like that a lot. So, but before this business is about 8 or 9 years old. Isn't that right, Angela?
Correct. Yep. Founded in 2012. Well, yeah, founded in 2012. I guess this summer it'll be 9. Yes.
Yes. So what did you do? How did you get into this? How did you start your own business? How did you come to that?
So here's the fun fact.
Okay.
25 years, 3 companies, 1 job interview. So that was my life in high tech. I was originally went to college I went to the College of Engineering. So I graduated, engineering degree in hand, and went to a company that was no longer existent called Digital Equipment Corporation.
Right.
It was the greatest company at the time. It was sort of the best tech company you could have been working for. I mean, it was so innovative. But here comes IBM, and IBM introduced the personal computer, and that put them out of business. And interesting enough, the other personal computing brand, Compaq, bought Digital Equipment Corporation.
Yeah.
And then HP came along and bought Compaq. So I was there for all those transitions. So the 3 companies. Yeah. And the only time I ever interviewed, so I had several roles. I mean, I started out engineering, but then I went into product management, program management, quality. I wore so many different hats, training. When I finally left, I was running a training organization, but never interviewed again since that very first time. So that's my little fun fact. But in 2008, I decided it was time to do something different. After 20 plus years in high tech, I needed to pivot. And so I was looking at opportunities in education and healthcare. But one of the things, for me, I still have that sort of tech/geeky orientation.
Yeah.
Healthcare and education are the 2 industries that take the longest to onboard tech. It's ever to get the newest technology installed. So it was just a little bit disheartening. But in the midst of that, in my city here, they asked me to run for school committee, which is otherwise outside of Massachusetts known as school board.
Right.
And they twisted my arms. I said, yes. And I've never been involved in politics in that way, running for office. And so here I am in a city of almost 90,000 residents, and door knocking wasn't a very exciting thing. You know, I was like, I don't like people that much. Let's try another way. So enter Facebook. And that is how I started to build my brand and the awareness of the campaign. And I continued to work after I won with other local campaigns and showing them the ins and outs. But then I quickly realized is politics don't pay. Well, maybe for Trump it does, but it didn't for me. And so I said, but you know who really does need to know how to do this? Those are those small, businesses, those coaching consultants. Those are the folks that really know how to do this. So I hung up my shingle, and that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Angela, I'm listening to you, and there are so many similarities in my career. It's actually fascinating. So I don't think you know this about me, but I did software engineering, so not a kind of engineering. Then I went and worked in the health service for 11 years, trying to roll out software tech within the health service. And you are so right. Oh my goodness. The reason that I eventually left was because I got so frustrated at the lack of movement and the lack of adapting new technologies. And I also had ended up in a role where I was managing software projects, but a lot of that involved training as well. So that's really fascinating. You're telling me your story, and I'm going, that was me. Yeah, I did that.
Take one cover off and slide the other cover off.
That's just really funny.
Hilarious.
I'm also, as a complete side note, I bring guests on my podcast, and so many times there's something that we have in common, and I think I must like subconsciously pick people who've had similar experiences to me. There's got to, that I don't even realize there has to be, because there's so many times I've been interviewing somebody going, that sounds so familiar.
The energy of attraction.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, Angela, you and I are connected on LinkedIn, and I know that it's not just LinkedIn that you work in. I know that you do digital marketing, and, one of the things you said there was it's really important that people actually figure out where their audience are. Yeah. Rather than just trying to decide one social media platform, or worse, they go to all the social media platforms and they just put the same thing on every platform.
And there's nothing worse than the peanut butter approach.
Yeah. Do you find, like, how does a company come across you in the first place? And do you find that you are really starting with that whole education piece before you even can work with them?
Actually, that's true. You know why? Because the way I went about promoting my business early on was by doing social media workshops. So people enrolled in my workshops, all across the city. I, would link up with different organizations like our chamber here, which I'm now on the board. But back then, I, just Johnny Gold member. It's like, don't you want a social media workshop? They're like, sure. And they set it up. And then I go to all these other education centers and all these other organizations, that focused on women in business, or small, like SCORE here in the US. They have SCORE. And so I did a number of workshops, and that's how I would say I got my following, so to speak, is through people attending my workshops. So they love the workshops. They're like, well, can you work with us to do this? And, and that's how it all got going. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Actually, you are a mover and shaker. So you're on the board of your Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yes, I am. Yep. I love my chamber. I always tell people it's not your father's chamber. It's very different. We're a very engaged community.
And do you think, so this is one of the things, I'm actually writing a blog at the minute about building authority on LinkedIn. And one of the things that I'm writing about is how the network, building a really great network around you on LinkedIn and talking to that network is really one of the key pieces. And it sounds like you do that offline as well as online. Like, do you?
Correct.
Yeah. So what would you say about the power of really building up relationships?
So here's my tagline: your network is your net worth. And And that's what I tell everybody. It's like, get on LinkedIn. I don't care whether you're B2B or B2C. Get on LinkedIn and start talking to your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find, so I would find that a lot of people have a real fear of, like, they just don't know what to say on LinkedIn, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could be true. But, everybody, you're in business, you have an expertise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just talk about your expertise. And everybody, I joke to all my clients, especially consultants. It's like, you guys got all kind of white papers, ebooks, all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you putting that out on LinkedIn? I mean, you can use the document feature. And that's so funny because a lot of them don't even realize the document feature is there. I was like, just throw that PDF up there and see what happens. Take that PDF. It has, usually, with if it's 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, you got to have a couple of different talking points. Just pick out a talking point from so everybody has content and they just kind of not think about it. Like, oh yeah, I really do have content. It's just they don't necessarily put it out there, but you have content. You do presentations, that's content. Yeah. So I think people just need to kind of get past the I need to post sort of mindset.
Yes.
Think about more, I'm sharing my content.
Yes. Do you think that people, I think a lot of people are very used to how Facebook works, and maybe they're thinking, yeah, but do you think people approach LinkedIn when they first are trying to learn? Someone said you should be on LinkedIn. That's where your customers and clients are. And they think, all right, okay. And they go to LinkedIn and they think, well, I don't know what to say. It's not like Facebook here. And that kind of gives them, that's one of their issues that they maybe have.
Yeah. And, and then to that point, I mean, is all these platforms, what you're doing is you're telling your story. And you can tell your story one way on Facebook and tell that same story a different way on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So case in point, everybody is home, most people right now with this pandemic, and a lot of people, most people also home with the kids and doing this homeschooling craziness. Right? Yes. So on Facebook, you may kind of just go all out and talk about how homeschooling is driving you crazy. But on LinkedIn, you may say, you know what? I've learned a couple of things through homeschooling. So I'm now a better negotiator, and I'm going to use that negotiation tricks I learned through homeschooling with the 5-year-old in my business.
Yes, I love that. That's such a good example. I love that.
Right. So you just got to think about how you're telling the story and just tell it a little bit differently that your audience is going to get value from it. Yes. On every platform.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today actually as well was how much that, to me, LinkedIn really developed a lot in 2020. And probably because a lot more people were at home and therefore going on LinkedIn rather than meeting up for coffee at lunchtime and break time and stuff. And one of the things that I did a whole talk last year at a conference about video on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn keeps talking about video on LinkedIn, but I still don't see a lot of people doing video well on LinkedIn.
Yeah. You know what? The thing is, people overthink video. And I myself didn't do as much video in 2020 on LinkedIn as I should be. That's probably why they didn't give me LinkedIn Live. I need to get back to it. So I need to practice what I preach. But I think people really, really overthink video. And, and that's one of the things, I'm always in the work smarter, not harder plan. And, I just tell people, use your phone, practice, just use your phone, do it a couple of times, just put it out there. If you go back and look at everybody who just started out on YouTube, their first initial videos suck.
Yeah.
No, but it gets better over time. So you just got to, it's one of those things you just got to do it. Like, rip the Band-Aid off and go and do it.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine who has I have LinkedIn Live, but my friend Ash has LinkedIn Live. And I think he goes live every single morning on it. And I get notified of it every day. I'm like, what is he talking about today?